Terry. This dude was supposedly like a legend because he had done the invasion of both Afghanistan and Iraq. When he was with us, he was a wild man. This dude wore like a Crocodile Dundee hat in the middle of ops. And basically, he would sell himself to a team and he would find where the most action was. Wait, these guys get to like pick and choose. They can go in between teams. They can get on the big op, but they're not beholden to all the administrative requirements that we have. It's the one job I would recommend for my sons. Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Reacts. This time we're finishing up part 2 of my 2-part series on the one job I regret not doing. Now, I went through the pipeline. I became a Special Forces 18 Bravo weapons specialist. I cross-trained as a Delta. I did a whole bunch of things in the military. I went to every school and every opportunity that I had. Free fall school, free fall jump master, advanced free fall, sniper, Sephardic, breaching courses, JTAC school called SOTAC, Special Operations Terminal Air Control School. All these schools that were amazing, and an amazing experience through my entire career. But one job always stood out to me, and it typically did because I thought, man, it must be nice being those guys. It must be nice being a guy who could just show up. All the teams, all the troops, all the assets are dependent on that one guy. And you come in, go out with the assault force, and then when you come back and when there's shenanigans, that guy just disappears. Hey, it's like we have annual inventories we gotta do. Where's that guy? He's not there. Hey, we got a free fall trip planned, and then he shows up. And it's like, man, what a great job. Well, to tease out that job even more, I'm going to go ahead and roll this recruitment video, and this will give you a little clue into that job and what it is.
Okay, red light. This should be the red light. You got anything?
This is what we train for, every day.
We just received new intel that there's an enemy presence at the airstrip compound.
All those years.
Load clear, King Jefferson.
When you're the first to arrive, it's not enough to be ready. You have to be relentless. It's our job to control the ground.
Like, the Air Force must have suppressed ARs that don't have cans.
They call us one-man air traffic control towers, but we're more than that.
Ivy Lima Charlie, break. Airfield is stable. You are clear to land.
One of the dudes had filters on his NVGs when it came out of the building. Just saying, it's a commercial. Just nitpicking, making fun of the Air Force. It's easy to do.
For others to follow.
That's right, guys. The one job would be combat controller. Not joint terminal air controller, that's a thing. Not TAC-Ps, but CCTs, combat controllers. Here's the reason why. One, as I grew up in the Army, we were not really taken care of. Even amongst the most elite units in the Army, different services, including the Air Force, treat their guys just differently. Let me give you an example. I went TDY before, and I've had combat controllers attached to my team, attached to the troop that I was in. Whatever it was that we were doing, we had CCT involved, combat controllers. If we were anywhere where there were subpar living conditions, those guys would get a stipend for those subpar living conditions, meaning they got a BAH or a housing adjustment because they're like, our guys don't deserve to live like this. We need to give them more money. On top of that, the career field in the U.S. Air Force for special operations is very small. So if you're amongst special operations guys, combat controllers, PJs, etc., you are considered amongst the elite. It's kind of like SEALs, right? SEALs are it for special operations. The Army has a lot of special operations. 160th, Ranger Regiment, Green Berets, and all of those fall under Special Operations Command, but it's still like the big Army. And we're not treated really special. When you're in a Special Forces group, like 3rd Group, like 10th Group, like 19th Group, I've been in all 3 of those groups, you're not treated special because everybody's a Green Beret. You know, you have 3-4 battalions, you have 3 companies per battalion, 6 teams per company with a B team. So when you take a combat controller in a small group of guys, they are disseminated amongst the force and amongst the action arms. And yeah, they have 2-4 that cover down on the SMUs. I think it's 2-2. Excuse me if I don't know the nomenclature because I'm not very familiar with the organization now. But you have different combat controller organizations that cover down on specific groups. So like my combat controller in Afghanistan in 2005, Terry, this dude was supposedly like a legend because he had done the invasion of both Afghanistan and Iraq. When he was with us, he was the wild man. This dude wore like a Crocodile Dundee hat in the middle of ops. I mean, not in the middle of gunfights or anything, but in the middle of daytime ops. You'd look over and he'd have his shirt off and he'd be tanning. And you're like, what is this dude doing? He lived off a sailboat in Florida and he would just farm himself out to different teams. And basically, he would sell himself to a team and he would find where the most action was. So this dude had like his own business. He was a sole proprietor. And it just seemed really weird that it's like, wait, these guys get to like pick and choose. They can go in between teams. They can get on the big op, but they're not beholden to all the administrative requirements that we have. Sure, they have a whole bunch of administrative requirements. Where I learned really to respect the job is when I was in special operations, and one of the first few classes of Special Operations Terminal Air Control School, or SOTAC, I think that's what the acronym stands for, it's been a while. They wanted to send me as a sniper to SOTAC to get SOTAC qualified because on the next rotation, we would be doing urban, rural stay-behinds where we'd be in a urban, rural hide with a sniper observation team, and we were limited in the amount of packs that we had. Also, there's only so many controllers, so many JTACs. So when I went to that school, I was like, really? I got to go to air traffic control school? The whole purpose of that was if we were in a hide site as an operator, as a sniper, we didn't have to have an extra enabler that only had one job, right? Their idea was it's hard to cross-train a controller into sniper, but it's not hard to cross-train a sniper into controller. Well, I beg to differ because I did an after-action review afterwards because I almost failed. I'm like, how hard can this be? I showed up and was like, I'll check this block. It's 3 weeks, a few weeks. I just need to be qualified to be able to do emergency close air support. What's the big deal? Well, it's a big deal. You're controlling lots of aircraft above head where getting it wrong costs lives. Okay, that's number one. Number two, the Air Force is very different from the Army, even in just basic stuff like lat long versus the Army's MGRS. Like, we don't use lat long. And so to learn a different system to be able to call for fire from an aircraft is completely different. Now, as an 18 Bravo, I was qualified to call for fire for artillery, right? For indirect firing systems, mortars, etc. And I thought this would be a cakewalk, but it wasn't. I actually failed one of the tests and had to retest. It was actually like the map test where you're in the dark, you have your plugger, your navigation device, and you're having to plug in all this stuff and do the formulas and do the calculations. And I thought it would be easy because I'm Asian and I'm good at math. But the reality is there's so many things that you have to do. If you talk to guys like JT from Black Rifle who spent his career as a JTAC, the reason it's so difficult is you have to multitask a whole bunch of things at once. And the most intelligent dudes I've met on a team haven't been fellow operators on a team, but they've often been the controllers and PJs. You have to have high aptitude. You have to be able to get through free fall and combat dive. Those alone are difficult schools to get through as individuals, even as experienced special operations guys. Like going to Key West to go to dive school, that's a very difficult school. That's required as part of your pipeline. And ultimately what it comes down to is just the quality of life and the diversification of things that you can do. Now, I don't have any personal regrets from my career because I did what I did. You know, I went into SF, I became an 18 Bravo weapons guy. I was a team sergeant, so I was an 18 Zulu, an operations guy, and then finished my career as an ops sergeant major. It was an amazing experience. I got to do a whole bunch of cool stuff and cross-train with multiple services and multiple jobs. And I felt like I was a jack of all trades. But I was always jealous of this experience that combat controllers had of becoming very specifically the expert in their field and briefing, for example, detachment commanders or troop commanders on their expertise and their role. Sure, are they directly engaged in combat as a priority? No, their priority is all the assets stacked above their head because they need to support the organization and the unit. But it's not to say these guys don't get in gunfights because there are many cases, including combat controllers that I've been on target with that have been invested and involved in gunfights. Some of the operations I did late in Iraq, for example, it was only like me, the EOD guy, and a combat controller going out with host nation forces. So we had to be ghost assaulters, meaning assaulters that had a fluid role that could do it all. And then also they had their priorities of work, which is the radio and aircraft. So I also think about it from a father's perspective, being a dad and seeing my sons grow up and get interested in the military. And for sure, I would support my son going into the Rangers, going into Ranger Regiment, getting experience, and then seeing all the opportunities and taking it from there, for sure. But if I had one job to recommend to my son to do, it would be CCT. All right, guys, this React is sponsored by Carnivalt. 25-year shelf life beef, chicken, and pork. They just did a big special because they pushed out a whole bunch of beef because they got in Amazon. Congrats to Carnivalt. But you guys can save as well if you go to the website. It's linked down in the description below. Make sure you use my discount code. So the last reason I think Combat Controller is the best, we went over quality of life, the opportunities, but I also think the last reason is operations. Look, combat controllers are required for nearly every operation. The last reason I think combat controller would be an amazing profession is because once you go through the pipeline, once you get operational experience, and you get at the senior levels of the Air Force, there's a lot of things that you could do, including working for the CIA. Now, I thought about it from my perspective. I'm like, I'm a weapons guy. I speak a foreign language. I have a lot of time training indigenous forces. What use would Special Activities Division have for a combat controller? Well, combat controllers can be cross-trained to train. A lot of them did that in the global war on terror. They're doing it now. They're training counterparts overseas, right? So they're training the trainers, and they're training subordinate organizations. So not only can they be trainers, but these guys as a baseline have to shoot, move, and communicate as part of their role. They have to go through small unit tactics training. They have to go through train-ups with special missions units. So they have to be the jack of all trades as far as a baseline of competency. Again, shoot, move, and communicate. So if I was running a paramilitary operations organization, I would prefer to have controllers that could also call in close air support, but do the basics of assaulting, CQB, the technical skill sets that are required on the ground. So they have a common core competency of being involved in reconnaissance or being involved whatever the mission requires, but also that specialty. And that makes them extra special. It's job security, and you always have to have a controller on target. And so, yeah, being a ghost assaulter on the objective, on target, with no specific responsibilities except going after bad guys, great job. But the Air Force's combat controller have amazing training opportunities, amazing operational relevancy, and a very diverse professional experience overall. It's the one job I would recommend for my sons. All right, guys, I appreciate you. Make sure you subscribe to this channel and all the channels down below. Also, follow me on my patreon.com/Mike Glover. Until next time, peace out.